Jackie Lovejoy. I'm president of the Dearborn Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us for our first quarter business builder. We do this every year, the tale of our cities with both of our mayors. Big round of applause. Thank you for being here. And we'd like to thank, can you all hear me okay? Okay, good, making sure it's still good, because Lord knows I could shout. We'd like to thank Comcast for being our event sponsor again several years in a row. Kyle and the Comcast folks, can you raise your hands? There you are, right in front of me. Thank you so much. We're very lucky at the Chamber. We have wonderful sponsors who put this on. And this is one of the great things we bring for the community and for all of our members. So you can hear everything great that happened over the past year and what's upcoming in 2018. I have to tell you, there are some press releases that have not gone out yet, and keeping a secret is killing me. So please stay tuned to the Chamber for all the great news. We'd also like to thank our table sponsor this year, Semka, for being here. I'm glad you all found each other. Marlon, give a wave there. Thanks for being here. Thank you. I'm going to introduce my board members who are with us right now. We're a staff of 4. We have ambassadors and board members that help steer the Chamber and help us do hard work. If you can hold your applause to the end, because we have a great turnout today. Our co-chairs, Craig DeLeon of the DMC and Maria Dwyer of Clark Hill, are with us today. Kyle Mazurek of Comcast, Mike Kruchek of DFCU Financial, Joshua Bruff of Fairlane Town Center, Doug Van Noord of Ford Land, Adam Sterling of Henry Ford Retirement Village, Mike Magnone of Melaleuca, Mary O'Brien of KLA Labs. I'm trying to find you all as I say your names. Ken Kettenville of University of Michigan Dearborn, Ryan Sheldon of the Henry Hotel, Bruce Wilson of the Henry Ford, and I think, have I missed anybody? This is a huge faux pas. Okay, big round of applause. We have a wonderful board of directors. Our board of directors really reflects our membership. We are a unique chamber. We're about 600 members, and we're a true 50-50 mix of big business and small business. So please treat the chamber events as your CEO roundtable as well. And for my corporate anchors, treat this as your test market. What happens at the chamber stays at the chamber. I would suggest a confidentiality agreement, but that's what we're here for. We would like to acknowledge our attending dignitaries today, our officials. We have Dearborn Heights City Councilwoman Lisa Hicks Clayton, Dearborn Heights City Council. We can hold our applause to the end. I'll let you applaud everybody. Dearborn Heights City Council Dave Abdullah, Dearborn City Council Leslie Herrick, and Dearborn District Judge, the Honorable Gene Hunt, is with us today. Big round of applause for that. Our Wayne County Commissioners, Gary Warrencheck and Diane Webb, are with us today. Thank you very much. And of course, both of our mayors, Dearborn Mayor John B. O'Reilly Jr., Mayor Jack, thank you, and Mayor Dan Paletko of Dearborn Heights. Yeah, big round of applause. They're going to do way more speaking than I do. Can all my ambassadors stand up for a minute who are in the room? And I've seen you. I know you're here. You can keep eating. You guys, shake these people's hands, get their business cards. They do a lot of heavy lifting for us at the Chamber. A wonderful group of people. If you want to meet new people, if you'd like to learn more about the Chamber, these people do what I do every day. They're out there because there's only one, we joke, there's only one of me, there's only one of Kelly, only one of Renee. So thank you very, very much. I'd now like to invite Kyle Mazurek, Manager of External Affairs for Comcast, to come up and say a couple of words to the audience. Kyle? This is the loud one, but if you can stand next to this one. Yes.
All right, yell at me. I tend to mumble, and apparently the mics are relatively quiet. But Jackie mentioned my name is Kyle Mazurek. I'm Government Affairs Manager for Comcast. Also a proud Dearborn Area Chamber board member. I think I'm now on the executive committee, so I'm serving triple duty in some respect. But I'm joined here by 3 of my colleagues today. We have Craig D'Agostini, who's our VP of External Affairs, one of my bosses. Maria Holmes, who's our Senior Director of Community Investment. And Leanna Easterby, who is with Comcast Spotlight, which does the cable advertising sales on behalf of the company. But just really quickly, to be brief, it's great to be here with all of you today, both to support the Chamber and to support Mayor O'Reilly and Mayor Paletko and acknowledge all the hard work that they and their staffs do on behalf of the greater Dearborn area. I'd be remiss if I didn't do one quick shameless plug. So one update from my world. Hopefully November, December, for those of you that are Comcast residential internet customers, you notice a speed increase. And I think that's important given how many devices in your respective households are connecting to the Wi-Fi. So you had our 10 meg service, it's now 25. You have our 25 meg service, it's now 60. And if you have our 75 meg service, it's now 100. If you want to see the speed increase there, it should be all set. But thank you. Hope you enjoyed the program.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, so now for the main part of the show. And if you haven't joined us before, both mayors are going to give us updates of the area, and then we have time for Q&A. So that's always interesting and exciting. So I'm going to hold the mic if the mayors would like to wrestle with this monster here. So first up, and we go in alphabetical order. So I'd love to introduce our mayor, Jack O'Reilly. He has served as an elected public official in Dearborn since 1990 and as mayor since 2007. He was last reelected in November 2017 and will be mayor through 2021. Throughout his public career, Mayor O'Reilly has consistently demonstrated his commitment to Dearborn neighborhoods by working to preserve the city's high quality of life and attractive services in residential areas. He has promoted economic development and community programs through the beneficial relationships with the county, regional and state agencies, and corporations like Ford Motor Company, Beaumont Health, and notably, he was instrumental in clearing the path for Fordland's Wagner Place development. If you have not driven down Michigan Avenue, I will quote the MEDC right now: never complain about traffic, because traffic is progress. And I have to tell you, if you haven't driven by, it is absolutely amazing. They're beginning work on the inside of that project now. He was president of the Michigan Municipal League in 2015 and 2016, and 2014 chair of the Downriver Community Conference. He was appointed in 2016 to the executive committee for the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. As a licensed Michigan attorney, he holds a Juris Doctorate degree from the University of Detroit. Everyone help me welcome our mayor, Jack O'Reilly.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm going to give a brief summary of a few things because I really want to get a chance to answer what you want to hear about. So that's what this event is really about, is as community leaders, people who are engaged, oftentimes this is the opportunity you've been waiting for to ask some questions about what's going on, around you, where you are, or what's coming. So again, I'm going to try and do a quick summary on some of the more notable things, and then from there, I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of questions, because I think that's much more valuable for everyone is to talk about the things that really are on your mind. Obviously, Mr. Van Ord was mentioned because of the Ford Land project. That's an extraordinary project, something that is unique, and I'd like to point out one of the things that it's about it that's unique is since Henry Ford was the person running the company, this is the first time that Ford Motor Company has actually purchased property in Dearborn. Up until then, they were using all the property that he had bought in the 1920s. So to me, that's a huge, big investment, because it means that their commitment doesn't even go with just what they already own, but that they went out and sought this project. And the reason they did it is because they wanted to begin to develop, and this process that's going to be a 10-year process that you hear about, is that they've committed that they're going to get the best talent they can get from wherever it is. And so they went out to Silicon Valley, they went out to the East Coast to look at where some of the successful companies were, what they were offering their employees, how were they attracting the talent. And then they came back here and they crafted a project that will make them competitive for that talent. And we are blessed to be the beneficiaries of that commitment, and it's really going to be extraordinary, and it's going to bring all kinds of new opportunities. And we can talk more about it if you want. There's been a lot of stuff going on, but I also want to hit other things. You know, we're working on with them on some other things where transformative. As we look at the community, there are places where there used to be a lot of activity. That activity has fallen off. We're talking with Ford about things we can do to make that viable again. How do we do that? Some of it may be Ford owned, but a lot of it is not. So we're trying to take a broad view. We have 2 DDAs that have been around since the 70s, but in the last few years, we also created corridor development authorities, which was something new. Corridor development authorities is like a DDA, but it's a linear group. And so we have in both on Warren Avenue and in Dearborn's south end, we have created corridor development authorities, so they now have business people who sit at the table, have funding that comes to spend on their district. And again, it's something that was only made available recently. So that means we have 4 business districts that have autonomy in a sense, and that can begin to look at what they feel is going to most benefit their businesses on that corridor, in that area. So that's another new thing. Obviously, with transit and so on, we're way ahead of the game. I'm really pleased that I'm on the board, but we selected to have they have I think it's 4 new high-speed rail things that the transit is doing, but Michigan Avenue is one of them. So Michigan Avenue is not only going to have its traditional system, but they're also having this high-speed system with limited stops. And ours is the only one where it'll actually continue right to the airport. You'll be able to go right to the airport to go where you have to get, and it's limited stops, so it's really very efficient. I actually followed it one day just to see what it was like, and just outside of Dearborn, they head down to the airport by Goshen. They get you right to your terminal. So that's a new thing that's coming. We've got a lot of other things around that area of transit and how we can do it. Along those, they're also adding brand new waiting stations for the customers that are going to be state of the art. And so those will be on that high speed. So it's a limited, you get there faster, and it's going to be really a great opportunity coming forward. So that's one of the other great things. We've got a lot of things going in the East End. We've got new investors who've come in. We're working with them. They're going to be doing some projects. We've got a couple of existing projects where people are going up and adding housing above their properties. And we've got several projects in East Dearborn doing that. And again, why? Because with what's going on in downtown and midtown in Detroit, we're a perfect place for affordable housing. And I'm working with a couple other developers who are willing to build new properties, high-rise properties, to help let people who work in Midtown, downtown, or even go to school there be able to have an affordable place to live right here in Dearborn. And we see that a strong market for our west side. We think that's going to be a perfect match, and we're working on that, and we've already got some things going. We also have a senior housing project, 77 unit, that's going in, be open next fall. That project is really exciting too. This is going to, we've got a lot of demand for it. It's going to have a lot of nice amenities, and it's right next to a health facility, so it's wisely located. We have a lot of other things going on, again, we're also seeing great growth for a couple of our realtors are here and so on, yes, and we're seeing great growth. The sales is up. We're seeing a lot more investment in the community. We've worked with areas where we didn't have a lot of activity before, and we brought it on. So we're seeing great growth in that. we've worked on, the art space project has also worked very well. It's been filled since we opened it, and it's now, we're getting into the part where there's the commercial part that's taxable, thank God, and that's starting to be developed, so that's good. So we're happy about that. But again, like I said, we've had a lot of amenities in our school, in our parks and so on. We added a new dog park where we did splash pads. Levagood Pool is being completely redone, upgraded, and also another Ford Woods is also going to have a brand new. So we're adding more amenities in the local communities for our residents, we're also trying to get the river engaged, and so we now have canoes that you can get and go on the river. We're working with other communities along the corridor to begin to really look at trying to get the river to be much more amenable to recreation, to people enjoying it and so on. We've had great results, and we're working on that too. So I'm going to stop there. And, I should mention, of course, with Beaumont Hospital, we've had a number of things. Obviously, Healthy Dearborn has been very successful. I myself have benefited from it. So we're trying to get the community to be much more engaged in health and health-related things. And one of the things that's happened is the Kosh family has been a great supporter of this effort. They helped us bring the biking system where we have bikes that you can just get in different places throughout the city and take them and leave them, and so the bike share has been going very well. And also we're expanding our trailways. So we're looking at another I'm trying to think what the number of miles are, but that's probably about how many miles? With the 40 or 50 miles of trail that we're working on. We've been making connections. Again, Ford Motor Company is going to help us cross over a couple of challenges so that we can continue to connect our city all the way through with a great walking and biking trail. And we've made a lot more progress in that. So I'm going to stop there and let people then ask the hard questions they're dying to ask. So there we are.
Come on up and join me. Oh, thank you. So if you don't know, we're now welcoming our own Dearborn Heights Mayor, Dan Paletko. Mayor Paletko is you can give him a round of applause now, sure. Dan Paletko, if you do not know, has a long history of public service. Before winning election to the Michigan House of Representatives, Mayor Paletko was a longtime member of the Dearborn Heights City Council. He is retired from Ford Motor Company, where he was a financial manager, and he's also a certified public accountant and holds degrees from the University of Michigan, University of Detroit, and Wayne State University. He is active in his community and is a member of the American Legion, volunteers for income tax assistance, and ushers at St. Linus Church. He has two daughters, Marie and Ann. Can you all help me welcome Mayor Dan Paletko?
I'm going to put it over here, but we'll see.
Okay. Here, let me pick up.
It started out to be kind of a rough year. I'm getting over a cold, and I tweaked a knee a week or so ago, but I'm sure I'm going to be able to handle the situation. I want to say good afternoon and thank you, Jackie, your great staff, and the rest of our colleagues at the Dearborn Area Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to share some time with you today. This is one of the events I look forward to every year, especially since after last week's weather, I get to stand up here next to this nice warm fireplace, so that was an added bonus. I want to recognize a few people in this. As I talk, I'm going to recognize some people in the room. You're going to see how vital this organization and the members are to the greater Dearborn Heights community, and how networking really is very functional. But I want to introduce a couple people that my good friend, our good friend, the Mayor of Taylor, Mayor Sollers is here. So, Mayor. And later when I talk about the Van Born corridor, I'll tie last year's meeting and his involvement and how that all worked very nicely. I also like to recognize, I think my whole Community Development Block Grant Group is here, so thank you for attending. And I want to give special recognition to a group that I am just so proud of. And we work so closely together, and a lot of my success is a result of the cooperation and the efforts of the Fire Department of Dearborn Heights. And I know the chief and the union is here today, so Mickey, Phil, and the rest of the guys, thank you for being here. You're the greatest. Last summer, I watched them in action at a couple fires, and we had to call. We don't have a ladder truck in the Heights, and I saw how important that is, and I'm determined to get a ladder truck for our fire department so that they can do the great job. They're doing a great job now, but we got to get them the right equipment. Also, I'll quickly say, he's not an official department head member, but I feel like Feldkamp, you're like part of the group, so thank you for everything you do too. At the risk of repeating myself every year, it is a real pleasure to share some quality time each January with members of our business community and my good friend and colleague, Dearborn Mayor Jack O'Reilly. As each year goes by, it becomes more and more evident that the result of having two mayors of neighboring cities like ours who enjoy such a solid, good working relationship and friendship benefits not only our respective communities, but the region as a whole. And what I'd like to do is, and I feel bad because my staff writes these great speeches, but I prefer just to talk off the cuff. But I want to talk about some things that are happening and recognize some people. I don't know where he went. Oh, County Chairman Gary Warrenchuk, my County Commissioner Diane Webb. One of the big things we worked on this year was Warren Valley. As most of you are probably aware, we were informed some time ago that Wayne County, the owner of the Warren Valley Golf Course, a recreational and a wildlife gem in Dearborn Heights, that the county had intentions of selling the property to a developer who would turn the course, much of which lies in a floodplain, by the way, into a subdivision of exclusive homes. Led in large part by the efforts of County Commissioner Diane Webb and supported in countless other concerned individuals, the county received a barrage of public concern and feedback resulting in their rethinking that initiative. The end result, thanks to County Commissioner Gary Warrenchuk, Diane Webb, and the rest of the county commissioners, is that property was sold to the city of Dearborn Heights. So you two great public servants, Dearborn Heights owes you a lot. You've done a great job, and we're going to make you proud. We're going to make that continue to make it a good golf course, a great place for wildlife. I didn't mean that in that way. But we're going to continue the operations as it is and even make it better. One of the things I'm very proud of is after Flint water crisis and other crises that have developed around the United States, I came across a group called AquaSite. And the quality and the safety of our drinking water is just so critical. And to ensure that Dearborn Heights residents and businesses have good, great water service, we partnered and received a subscription from AquaSite that regularly tests and analyzes our water system to give us an early warning system if there is something wrong. And we are the first community in the area to adopt this service. It is in Mount Pleasant, or central Michigan, after they had a difficulty. The AquaSite people developed these programs, and I've been talking to Sue McCormick. I hope that they, and they being Great Lakes Water Authority, will enter into an agreement for the whole Detroit water system. But it's an early detection system and gives you trends before problems develop. But I thought that was so important after you see the kind of disasters that can happen with such an important quality item that cities provide, like water. And now I'd like to talk about something that I'm really proud of, because all of you had a part of it that were here last year. But last year I mentioned an initiative about Van Born that I was concerned about the fact that Masco was leaving. The overall quality of the area was starting to show some significant declines, and indicated there was a lot of space. Well, after the meeting, the president of Ford Land Development, and I think he just became president very shortly thereafter. I don't know if he's here today or not. But he came up to me after the meeting and he said, can we talk about this Masco? Because the Ford Motor Company's asked me to find all this office space on a temporary but kind of a semi-midterm, long-term proposal for engineers as we redo the area. This might fit our need. So I told him, I said, well, let me get a hold of my good friend Mayor Sollers of Taylor, and I'll call you back. So I did call Mayor Sollers. We talked about it. He had a good relationship with the Masco people, and we met at the Dearborn Heights City Hall. Now, we were warned by both Masco and Ford Land, you can't say anything about this at all because we've got to go through our organizational steps, but this might work. Well, lo and behold, it did work. And now Ford employees are going to be, if they have not already, are in the Masco headquarters, the old Masco headquarters, as Masco moved to Livonia. But in addition, the Mayor Sollers and I have talked about, you know, we need to do more with Van Born. And so they have the same planning consultants that the city of Dearborn Heights has, and we got Wade and Trim involved, and we're now starting to work on a major plan for the Van Born corridor, the two communities working together. We'll probably start having public input in February. We had a press conference late last year, and many of the chamber members came out, and your input was extremely important. But think, this all started because I got invited to last year's dinner, and I made a comment about the fact I was concerned and there was this vacant office space, and that's how networking and how important this chamber is. So that is a true, real story, and I want to thank the chamber, Mayor Sollers, and Ford Land Development, because it wouldn't have all happened if all of you hadn't been here and we all worked together. So that is, I think, a huge success story, and you're all part of it. The other comment I want to indicate is, Jackie, you and your staff, you just do such a great job. And I don't know if any of you have caught this, but President Lovejoy, who now serves as the host of one of our cable TV studios' newest program, Chamber Cafe. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it. I think, I'm waiting for Hollywood to call her, because I think it's going to happen. And let me conclude by saying a special thanks to all of our local businesses. What you're doing on Warren Avenue on Ford Road, just fantastic. I can't thank you enough, and as a mayor, we will continue to work with all of you to make sure you're all successful in keeping Dearborn Heights and Dearborn, the whole general area, as successful as it continues to be.
Relax. This is the Q&A portion. Both of our mics are live, gentlemen, so whoever's speaking, if you don't mind joining us here. and we'll pose the first couple of questions. I'll get the wireless going. Does anyone, I'll lead us off with a question. Mayor Paletko and Mayor O'Reilly, can you speak a little bit more about the Van Born corridor redevelopment? And Mayor O'Reilly, can you speak a little bit to the streetscape work that'll be done on Howard Military and Mason in coordination with Wagner Place? So, you want to start off?
Yeah, I'm real excited about Van Born corridor. We hired Wayne Trim to go through and come up with a proposal, and then they're going to present it to both city councils in Taylor and Dearborn Heights, hopefully by the end of January, and then in February, we'll open it up to the public. But it's to take a complete new look at all the property along there and what it could eventually become. It's looking at the sidewalks, the streets. We're also looking at the Ecorse Creek and tying that in. So with a nice walking center, and sky's really the limit. We're hoping that people will come forth with ideas, but both communities are committed to making sure, and there's some properties, like everybody comes up and tells me all the time, you better not touch Roberto's Bakery down there or else. So we're not touching Roberto's Bakery. Okay, that's still going to be there. But we see a lot of great potential for developing. And the other great thing is, whether the business comes in on the Taylor side or the Dearborn Heights side, both of us as mayors are committed to seeing a real revitalization of that property. And it really doesn't make a big determinate. I mean, obviously I'd like to have the business in Dearborn Heights, but whatever helps the corridor, that's the kind of cooperative spirit that we're having.
And first I have to say, you know, he's much better than me because he acknowledged his staff and even one of my staff, but I'd like the people here. That was real embarrassing, so I'd like our staff to stand up and be recognized and so on. And yes, with that project, what's happening is there's going to be a lot of amenities that are added in. The city obviously supported putting in a parking deck and so on so that we'd have the capacity, but we also engaged in other ways in terms of helping to achieve what's going to be a very novel area. It's sort of like what's going on downtown. Behind the building will be places for just relaxing, having events, doing different things. We're going to be able to close off the road that runs there so that it can be shut down for special events, things like that. So it's going to be a gathering place, and that's what we really need today is in the business districts, as the mayor talked about, we need to have an environment, something that people say, I'm going to go there. I may not even know what I'm going to do when I get there, but I know there'll be something to do. There's activities, there's things going on. We're going to have, now we've already implemented some of this in another part, but this is just going to expand that into a bigger and bigger part. We'll have children's events during the days. We'll have evening events, music, concerts, all kinds of things. And like I said, we've designed it so that we can have the cars and roads not being used so that we know that we have that affinity. So that's an element of this. Plus, we're also extending beyond the regular DDA. We're going out further and investing so that that corridor continues along the avenue. It continues down where people have a sense of this is a whole welcoming environment. So it's really an exciting project. That'll be probably by early or maybe later summer, midsummer, that will begin to evidence itself because they'll actually be moving in by then and so on. So it's really it's going to be really an outstanding draw. And again, with all the new businesses and stuff that are going to come in with it, it's going to be exciting.
Are the cities going to allow medical marijuana facilities?
Well, we already have, the facilities, we have medical marijuana that's done in town. I think you do too. So, but we're waiting to see what's going to happen. We know there's probably going to be a ballot question and so on, and some efforts to organize that a little, the whole system of delivery a little better. So right now, we're working on looking at that and determining, but we also want to make sure that we don't get ahead of what's coming in terms of what the state is doing and so on. So, but we're not adverse to it. We just want to make sure that we're going to be consistent.
Yeah, the city of Dearborn Heights is in a similar situation. The council, I'm sure, will be talking about it in January and February. But yeah, we'll still have to wait and see. And there's a lot that developed, and some of you might not recognize, but with the federal attorney general making some comments relative to enforcement at a federal level, one has to be realize that on a federal level, this is still a crime. And it's not legal. So there's a lot of that still has to be worked out. I want to recognize two other people. I know Councilman Bob Constance came in, and I apologize, Ken Greivel, my recreation director, but thanks for being here.
And I'll apologize, Mayor Rick Solers, you snuck in on me. Any other questions? Yes. Mary.
Okay. I'm very pleased to know that we're going to have transportation to the airport. But I'd like a little explanation about how you're going to control traffic on Michigan Avenue, because right now, at noon, it's jammed up forever.
Right.
And I've seen plans about if they want this dedicated in the center lane, is there not going to be left-hand turn lanes? And while you're at it, is Monroe going to stay closed because of the train traffic?
Well, what do you mean stay closed?
Well, because you can't go through now.
Well, yeah.
Because of the development.
Right. But it will be everything will be reopened that was there. What we're working with, and it's on a broader context, but it's a good question. We have a bottleneck that's not going to go away, so if anybody expects that to just miraculously change, it won't. But we're working on a couple of things that will really make it different. Now, right now during construction, it's much more challenging. But instead of having every road have access both ways, we're going to begin to modify that a little bit. That will actually help it flow better, but it means you're going to have to circle back around. But there's so many downtowns, if you think of it. I mean, we don't always call that downtown, but if you go anywhere and you look at downtowns, there's always that thing where you have to go behind to get to certain places. So that's not going to be unusual. But also with Ford, we're talking about new ways, particularly to get their employees in and out of their business successfully, meaning that it's so we're looking beyond Michigan Avenue as the carrier for a lot of traffic. So when you talk about the hospital and Ford's properties, there are other access points, and we're looking at all of those things to say, how can we get those people who are just trying to get to work, they're not really looking to do business in the commercial area, how do we get them alternatives so that it makes sense for them to go on the alternative, and it makes sense then that we're reducing the number of cars that are actually using that coming into the district. So there's a lot that's being examined on how we can improve that. But at the end of the day, it's always been an issue. I remember for at least 30 years we had that one way at one time in the morning and one way in the afternoon, and we fought for years with the state to try and get that removed. I mean, that was even worse than this was, especially for visitors, because I mean that was crazy. People were here and they'd go at night and they'd drive and drive down there, and then the next morning they'd try and go in that and they'd get honked at and so on. So again, that's always been a bottleneck. There's very little you can do about it. But we are looking at alternatives, and Ford has been very amenable to working with us on other ways that we can get some of that traffic, particularly traffic that's not destined for downtown, through other venues.
More questions? I have one, maybe it'll spur some conversation. With state limits on property tax values and capture, what efforts are both cities undertaking to shore up any possible shortfall in the local municipalities? And that was posed anonymously by one of our members.
That is a very tough question. Let me tell you some things that are going on, and once again, on a national level that people may not be totally focused on, although a lot of the business people will. There is a big war going on, and has for numerous years, between businesses that are brick and mortar businesses, and a lot of you in this room are brick and mortar, versus internet companies. Because you can set up an internet company and do sales all over America and not be subject to sales tax or use tax. It's a word called nexus, but the Supreme Court had ruled that if you did not have certain presence in a state, you were not subject to state laws as it required to collect from your customers sales and use tax. That was defined as having employees, a property, and other things. There has been a case filed, I believe it's South Dakota, and a internet company, and the Supreme Court has said they are now going to look at this. The reason I say that is because under the state constitution, collection of taxes are based on a formula that influences the cities, the townships, the county, and we all have an important place. So if there's more money collected, we get more money constitutionally. That case is now being argued, but I read somewhere to the extent that we may be talking $30 to $40 billion worth of tax revenue that might be at stake. That's an astronomical number. And so that is a case that has huge ramifications for all of the states and municipalities. But also, I've always felt it's not fair for a brick and mortar that's paying for property taxes and other type state taxes to have that disadvantage of having somebody that a customer can go online, buy the thing, and say, well, right away it's going to be the sales tax amount cheaper, which is significant. So that is one item that's happening. The other thing you always have to watch, especially in Michigan, are car and truck sales. And I think we have to be extremely, hopefully this trend is what I've been reading is not going to come into play, but the last 2 years, overall truck and car sales have declined, not by a whole much, but we were at 17 million. I think they're now around 16 million. That's still very healthy. However, there's 4 million lease cars that are coming up in 2018. That's going to have a significant impact. Now, hopefully, these people are going to replace their vehicles and buy new ones, but it will have a significant effect on the overall auto industry, and that's extremely important to this particular state. From a city standpoint, I mean, it's always a struggle. I believe to a large extent that in many cases I have used every single ounce of brain power as it relates to being a CPA to try to keep Dearborn Heights functioning, because we don't have industry, we're a residential community, and the state, it won't be till 2025 that we get the same amount of revenue from the state that we received the first year I became mayor 15 years ago. So we have really tried to run a city on bare bones and trying to make everything work. And it's a tough challenge.
Yeah, I just want to talk about one in one in our state. What happened? And we have a lawsuit, Michigan Municipal League, the Counties League, and others. We are all suing the state because they're violating Headley Amendment. And by violating the Headley Amendment, they're actually not giving the local governments, and when we talk about local governments, remember, everybody who pays property tax, so that's even the intermediate school district, the county, everybody who gets that money, we collect it. Some people, believe me, during this election, people got really turned around. They kept thinking that everything they got that was collected in taxes went to the city. I went, no, we get about 1/3 of that. But the point is, Headley Amendment was before Proposal A, and it said that when Headley passed, they had to continue to have the same percentage of money coming back to local governments as was there before Headley was adopted. So that was a thing to take the edge off of the fact that local municipalities are going to lose some value. Well, what happened is when they had Proposal A, they decided just to ignore that. So that's where, literally, incredible amount of money that should have been coming to local governments still did not come, and now finally we've sued them. I was on the board and I'm still on the board for Michigan Municipal League. And we have a lawsuit, and we are pretty sure that we're going to be very successful because it was very clear in the language, and it preceded Proposal A. But that's what's been happening ever since. So that was supposed to be the safety valve for the fact that property values would only go up a certain percent a year and not go up with the actual value of the property. So if that pans out, which I think it will, that's going to, now personally the state doesn't have the money to pay back everything. I'll be blunt with you, all we're trying to do is getting them to go forward giving us what we should get. So I mean, while all this tons of money, I'm being realistic and saying I don't think we'll get a big windfall, but if we could get that changed, it would be huge in terms of the ability for local governments to do their job. So that's something you need to know about because it's pending, and I think it's going to produce some kind of solution that will help local communities.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions. Bob? Mr. Constable.
Mayors, thank you for a great presentation. Does anybody know when Ford will be moving and we'll start seeing traffic at the old Masco property and the old Kmart property?
You know, is there someone from Ford Land here that would be able to answer that? Because I'm not sure we'll be able, unless, Mayor Sollers, do you have any idea as to?
They have already started to move in. They received their occupancy permit. They started to move in, and you know, as time progresses, we'll likely see them continue to grow and more people getting into that office.
Okay, so they're in moving, and the city of Taylor gave them a C of O, so that's important.
They hand delivered that.
Right.
He hand-delivered it, he said, thank you, Mayor.
This question is for Mayor O'Reilly. I know at one point there was a very controversial subject in the city of Dearborn and Dearborn Heights in terms of combined dispatch. And I know you've got your operation started in Dearborn. I'd just like an update as far as what the current status on it is. Is it up and running? And I know you have one partner at this particular point,
Yeah.
Melvindale.
Right.
Would that be enough to survive, or are you still looking
yeah.
to add additional cities, or what's the
No,
status?
we're-
And most
we're-
specifically in terms of Dearborn Heights is where I'm concerned.
Well, I mean, we're
Thank you.
happy to embrace anyway because this new system is there's not much in lower part of our state, but in the upper part of our state, that's where this originated. And the idea was to have the kind of system that could accommodate almost any information technology because you know there's so much going on. And up there they were so far apart and so on. So it started really up there, but the state has really embraced it. It's called New Gen or New Generation. And what it means is that no matter what kind of tools people have, they'll be able to communicate with dispatch, which has not been the case. And so there's been a lot of challenge in that. And it's going to, the state is promoting it to actually eventually be that it would be a statewide system. They haven't said that they're actually going to say you have to have it, but they're encouraging it and so on. And they had a pool of money that they put out for developing it, but that pool is now gone. I mean, right now, it may come back again. But the state is very supportive of it. And the idea is there's a lot of advantages. For example, in this system, when somebody calls in, they can refer it to the front line, and yet still they can stay online. So basically, you can have two people who are serving that same customer at the same time, all kinds of other great advantages. So we have it fully implemented. It's working. It's a very strong system. And it is something that could really be added on. We got grants we had gone after, and we're progressive in getting grants. So we have some leverage there. But we're saying, yes, we think, sharing it. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on. I'm going to make this statement because it's one that really bothers me. There's so much that we can do collectively, amongst the local governments that we don't do simply because of us and them. Our citizens are, and I'll speak for the Dearborn citizens, they are so narrow in terms of the idea of us working with other communities and so on. It's us and, and that's really hurting everybody. All around us. I mean, if one community is doing well and they're surrounded by communities who aren't doing well, that success they're having doesn't mean a lot. I mean, I think we really have to start looking at how do we make it make sense so that government all around us is able to give the services that need to be given and that we get it done. And there's a lot of ways of doing that, and I'm hoping we'll begin to explore them. That's one of the reasons I want to stick around a little longer, is I think we really need to start realizing that, yes, this is this city, that's that city, and so on, but there are a lot of things that we would do collectively which would get more value for the dollar, and there's absolutely no reason not to do them except that, well, we're us and they're them, and so on, and that's really, I believe that's a real barrier that we need to overcome.
I'll just add that one of the things I'm very proud of is the fact that you have people like Mayor O'Reilly here, Mayor Sollers, my good friend Mayor Wild of Westland. Well, we all talk, work together, network, and we're always trying to think of ways that we can work cooperatively together. And that doesn't happen in a lot of other regions. But unfortunately, sometimes we end up under political, people are trying to make a name or a fact for themselves politically to the detriment of cooperation. And that's something that we got to guard against, because that doesn't really help these communities. There are things that we all do that we've ended up getting a specialty in, and by offering that specialty to our neighboring communities, we become more efficient, we can operate at a cheaper cost, and it benefits all our residents, and they don't even know that there was even a particular change. And so we always have to be open-minded, but that's the one thing, if I was going to pay some compliments to my neighboring mayors, those are some. I mean, Mayor Sollers, you and I are working on that downriver treatment plant. And how much resistance do we get from other mayors and things about, in regards to the county. But we know where we need to get to in order for the betterment, and so that the cost is the cheapest that it can be. And so we persevere. But yeah, we end up with these political persecutions also as it relate to it. But I got to tell you, you got great leadership in the surrounding communities if you live in Westland or Taylor and Dearborn, and I'm proud to say that they're good friends of mine.
Super, and I know we have one more up here. We might have time for one more. Sam?
Mayor Paletko, this question is for you. As a real estate broker, I'm always interested in real estate housing opportunities. I know what's going on in Dearborn, and I work in Dearborn Heights. My office is in Dearborn Heights. Being in the real estate market, is there anything that the city of Dearborn Heights owns in terms of land that could be developed into residential neighborhoods? That's my first question. The second one, when are we going to start seeing the city open on Fridays again?
Let me answer the last one first. In fact, that we just ended up negotiating a new contract, although some of that now I guess is in doubt. But in there allows for a 5-day operation. I will tell you that it's a significant cost for the 5th day, and whether or not the residents and the union was not particularly excited about going to 5 days, but that is now available with the particular agreement. I've tried to keep Dearborn Heights out of the real estate business, so to speak. I'm not sure that we have a lot of property, but we always look at whether or not some of the property we have is park property, and we want to continue that as park. The one thing I do want to comment on is that Doug Feldkamp and I have had discussions, and we will be in our building department, for all of you that are in the realtor thing, what Dearborn now operates with the computerized C of O, I've asked, and we're going to bring that into Dearborn Heights, and hopefully sooner than later. So we've got that up and running, and that was something that the Dearborn Board of Realtors had asked me about, and I told you that if I got reelected, that would be high in the priority list, and we started those discussions. We'll keep working. I know that a lot of the members of the council would like to go to 5 days, and so we'll see if we can accomplish that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, at this point, I'd love to have my board chair. We have co-chairs this year, and Craig DeLeon, our chair from last year, is taking our first 6 months. So if Craig, if you can come up, and Craig's from the DMC if you don't know. Maria Dwyer, if you can give a wave, will be chairing the last 6 months and 2019, which is our 75th anniversary at the Chamber. So give a wave.
Well, it's kind of heavy, huh? Yeah. Well, thank you, both mayors. Thank you, everyone that attended. As Kyle said, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a little plug for the Chamber. There's plenty of events coming up. As you can see, there's a save the date little handout on your table. Feel free to grab one of those. We've got a really exciting one at Hal Peterson coming up with our Death of Our After Hours. I'm sure that you saw it's probably the most appealing one that catches your eye up there. But aside from that, our next really marquee event is the Chamber Choice Awards, March 16th at the Henry Hotel. And especially if you are celebrating an anniversary date, a 5, 10, 15, 25, all the way up to 100, I think the DMC. Yep. DMC, Harper Hospital, and Hutzel Women's Hospital are celebrating 125 years, so we're really excited about that. So if you're celebrating an anniversary date, there are incentives to be a part of the Chamber Choice, but I'm sure that we'll see many of you there. It's a very well-attended event. It's one of our biggest events of the year. But aside from that, feel free to keep an eye on announcements coming up, email, website, of all the events that the Chamber does across Dearborn and Dearborn Heights. So thank you all.
All right.
And since this mic is live, we do have speaker gifts. And I have to tell you, I receive a lot of clocks, a lot of engravings, and I'm thankful for them all, but we went on a more personalized note this year. So that is your gift, due to your personal interest and history in the film industry. And this is your gift, due to your, it is. You want to show everybody?
All right.
I don't think it's a secret. It's not bad.
All right. There you go. All right. Moments that made the movies.
You may not know, we have a thespian in our midst. And you like your board?
I do, and I'm hoping that my, this summer, I traded my old Shelby for a GT 350 Mustang. I can make sure I get a pizza home before it's cold. I can guarantee you that. So I'm assuming my car, picture of my car is in you. Great gift.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you all. Please continue to network. I appreciate you being here today. Cheers to a wonderful 2018. Stay warm out there today. Hey, thanks for tuning in. You may have just seen the tale of our cities. I'm here with our mayors, Dan Paletko of Dearborn Heights and Mayor Jack O'Reilly of Dearborn. Thanks for tuning in and keep watching Dearborn Heights TV.